Parents have a powerful voice in these situations.
Yeah, it's about advocacy.
Yeah.
Yes, we have other people who help advocate for your child, but you are your child's biggest advocate. And part of being your child's advocate is educating yourself on what the process is, but also knowing who to go to ask for that help to educate yourself.
Welcome to Conversations with Verdel Jones, where we share informative and enlightening conversation and empower your passion with purpose. I'm your host, Verdel Jones, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Today's guest we have is a social worker, but she's also the owner of Laventure Consulting, which helps families with neurodivergent children. I'm really excited to have this conversation, and I would like to welcome Dr. Martine Laventure. Did I say that right?
You said that perfectly.
Okay. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me.
This is such an important topic, so I just really want to get into it. See why you decided to start a consulting company and what your experience has been. So let's get right into it.
So the whole reason behind me starting Laventure Consulting was because it was my life. It is my life. I have a soon-to-be 19-year-old son who's on the spectrum. And I've always told people I don't take it lightly that I am a social worker. So I know the lingo, I know what doors to knock on to get services, but it also feels different when it's your own. And it's still a fight. It was still a struggle for me. And knowing that and knowing how hard it was for me, even with that knowledge, I could only imagine what it has been for other people trying to get the same help. So I wanted to be that same voice that I probably needed to have, that push that I needed going through what we've gone through all these years and continue to go through, because now we're in the next phase of his life, the adulthood, and it looks different there too.
Right. Oh, wow. Wow. I really love that you started a consulting company that does address that. I'm an educator as well, and I know there's a lot of acronyms and phrases and all types of things that people don't understand. And if you don't have that basic knowledge, and it's not the fault of the parents, it's sometimes the fault of the individuals holding those meetings to discuss their children and not really fully explaining. So I appreciate that service that you're able to provide. I want you to, if you could, explain what neurodivergent is and what neurodiversity is. Are these words interchangeable? Neurodiversity and neurodivergent.
To be neurodivergent, we're talking about certain diagnosis. So that means ADHD falls under that. Autism falls under that. Dyslexia falls under that. So there's a lot of things that fall under that umbrella. To be neurodiversity is to be able to understand and have those spaces for those individuals.
Got it. Okay. I got you. So you mentioned that through your personal experience, you wanted to open up Laventure Consulting Services. And you really aim to educate and empower and encourage people, really. And the focus is deals with being culturally sensitive as well. So can you speak a little bit to that, and what types of services or training do you offer individuals from that lens?
So from that lens, I, as a person of color and also working in schools, we also notice that a lot of our students of color, they get labeled, they get, spoken to by their behavior. And I'm speaking also from a personal standpoint. I have ADHD, and I remember as a child, the services wasn't provided to me. Instead, I was given detention. I was sent to the principal's office, and we're talking about elementary school in the early 90s. And that's how I was treated. So if they had saw the fuller picture of who I was, then the conversations would look different. So this is what we continue to see. Instead of saying, like, what is the full picture? What is really going on with Johnny? We're looking at the moment. And the moment is, yes, he made a mistake. He couldn't stay still. He couldn't attain to what was happening in the classroom. And as a teacher, you want to be able to teach the whole classroom. You have rules that you need to be followed, expectations to be met as a teacher itself, and also to make sure that all of your students are getting what they need. But in that moment right there, do you truly have time? So it's, all right, let's stop the behavior, but what is the root of that behavior?
Right. Yeah, taking it a step further and digging a little deeper into what is really going on. What do you see as one of the biggest challenges that parents have in your work with parents around this? And yeah, what would you see as the biggest challenge?
I would say it's two things. We're talking about stigma of the quote unquote label and also access to services. You know, when I looked at our journey as a family getting help for my son, the fact that I had to travel sometimes even 30, 40 minutes outside of where my home is to get help, it spoke volumes. You know, I recently done an assessment for a family who lives in Long Beach, but now I'm looking at what is around and what's available to them. I'm have to go all the way looking in Hicksville, Massapequa for this family. And then I'm like, is this even worth it? How are they going to get there? Again, the access is not there. So these are what we're looking at. The stigma, it comes from a long history. We have to understand this historical trauma when we're talking about the medical field and people of color. So to trust the medical field, to really look at our children and say, like, all right, we're going to diagnose you properly and give you the treatment that looks and understands you, it's very heartening. But then we're also looking at it as, what did I do wrong as a parent? That why is my child like that? You know, and if you say that you have this diagnosis, then you're saying that I'm a bad parent, but that's not it at all.
Wow. And I would imagine that navigating the school system or the system itself is something of a challenge for parents as well. How do you help them navigate that?
Understanding what their rights are, you know, being able to teach them to ask the questions, ask them to take a pause, like, this is moving too fast, I don't understand. Understand that if your child has an individual educational plan, also known as an IEP, just because you had a meeting, it happens annually, does not mean that you can call to come to the table. I know one of the things I always did when it came to my son is at the beginning of every school year, I asked for a 10-week meeting to see where he's at. If what we talked about in May still applies in September, October, because there's a lot of things that has changed. Summer, growth, you know, it could have been incidents that has changed his way of viewing school. So are the things laid out for him the previous year still applicable to this current school year?
Right. I love that idea. 10-week check-in. See how it's going. See what might need to be adjusted. And you're so right in the sense that parents think, oh, we had this meeting at the end of, like you said, May. This is the plan. You can always change the plan. You can always come to the table and speak with individuals that are working with your children.
And also knowing what the weight limits are. Some people's like, well, I put in a request for my child to be evaluated. What's happening? And then they're like, oh, well, we're by law obligated to do this amount of time. And then you didn't know that and you feel like they're just slow-footing it. But no, they're following it by the T or saying, like, you know, where are we in the process? It's okay to call and ask. Or even when you're at the table, yes, it's a committee, but you're part of that committee. You don't have to always agree with the committee's decision.
That's an important part too. Parents have a powerful voice in these situations. I think the confidence level has to really come through for them, and with your services, they can gain that confidence.
Yeah, it's about advocacy. Yes, we have other people who help advocate for your child, but you are your child's biggest advocate, and part of being your child's advocate is educating yourself on what the process is, but also knowing who to go to ask for that help to educate yourself.
Spot on. Spot on, for sure. So if we have parents that are watching who may be starting their own journey, what what are a few steps that they can take to we're talking about the advocating effectively for their child's needs? They're just starting the process. I know there's a waiting period for them to be able to get tested, but what can they start doing?
It starts with partnering up with your child's school, right? Partnering up with the teacher. It's not just about, how they're doing grades, but how are they? I'm noticing that Johnny is struggling with this when he's at home. Or have you noticed an uptick of these behaviors at home? And jot this information down. Take down the data. From there, you could also reach out to the mental health team in the school. Like, do you feel that based on these findings at home and what the teacher is seeing in the classroom, is it worth you doing an observation? Bring in that team approach. And once you get that information, now bring in another person that is your pediatrician. That will always be your first step in the process. Get your pediatrician involved. Let them try to figure out, is it developmental? Is it environmental? What is going on? And so you're just taking steps up the ladder, and it's going to be a whole team approach to try to figure out what is happening with your child.
Right. And I think on the parents' part too, like you said, it is a team approach, and they not all schools or individuals are created equally, but it's their responsibility to support you and your child. And I think coming in with that knowledge is also helpful for parents too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So educators and mental health professionals are often seeking better ways to support all learners. What advice would you give schools that want to create a more culturally aware neurodiversity affirming environment?
It's beyond just a task that you take. It's a mindset. You have to believe it. You have to be the change that you literally, I know it's corny and cheesy, but you really have to be the change that you want to see. If it's a full mindset of the entire building, and that is the atmosphere that you created, you don't have to put anything in place, because everybody is walking that talk and talking that walk. Like it is what it is, because you already established it.
Right. It's already been done. So our show is about turning your passion into purpose. How has that phrase shown up in your journey? And what continues to fuel your mission today?
What continues to fuel my mission today is watching everybody's success story in the way that they envisioned it to be. Because I envisioned a life for my son where he was successful, he was going to have friends, he was going to go through things, and he did. My son was considered nonverbal. He didn't speak until he was about 5 or 6. He went through a lot. We was told that he couldn't do this, couldn't do this. He's in his first semester in college, and it's a journey of that as well. Nice. But you know what? That was the success that we saw for him. So your success could look different, and just know that it's attainable.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Congratulations,
Thank
Mom.
you.
I know that's it's a challenge for anybody.
Oh, yes.
So I feel for you. So we're going to do a quick fire round.
Okay.
All right. A book or resource that changed your approach to advocacy.
The research actually was about, so we all know there's adverse scale where it looked at, all right, what trauma you went through as a child. But when we really looked at it, it did not take account for people who look like us. So then they stepped it up a little bit and made the Philadelphia adverse scale. And to me, I said, that is the right way to approach. I feel like when it comes to intake documents and any documents, period, it has to be fully understandable who's the person in front of you, not just a general person, no, a bigger picture, because my trauma and your trauma would be different, because if our environments are different, then it will look different.
Wow. And so you're talking about the ACE, the ACEs, right? So there's a different ACE scale.
Yeah, that it expands the questions, and those questions was geared towards environments where it wasn't the same as others. So we're talking about more urban areas. We're talking about people of color. So they expanded those questions, and that way people were felt more seen, because we're wondering why in certain spaces, when you go to trainings, why is my score higher than my partner? I'm like, wait a minute, you didn't experience that too? But then when we expand it, then you realize, like, okay, this is what we need to do. And I feel like from that approach, I wanted to make sure that a lot of our documentation resembles that also.
Love that's I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. A small but powerful way to make a child feel seen and valued.
Learn what they like. I mean, I'm not the best at TikTok, but I get it, but if you walk into my office, it's bright. I always joke around and say that, look like the rainbow threw up and there's so many colors. There's video games. Like, I'm all about meeting a child where they're at. If I have to beat you in Mario Kart while getting it done, let's do that.
A self-care practice that keeps you grounded.
Asking for help. Asking for help, I think, is part of self-care, because as much as I watched my grandma do it all, my mother do it all, my aunts doing it all, I never saw them once ask for help. And once I learned to start asking for help, I saw that it took a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety off of me, and I felt better. And that was part of my self-care journey.
Powerful. Ask for help. I love that. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Martine Laventure, for sharing valuable insight that can really, really help build stronger communities. But I want you to let everybody know how they can reach out to you and get more information about your consulting business as well. You can write in there.
Absolutely. You can reach me at laventureconsultingservices.com. Book a 15-minute consultation with me. Let me know what your needs are, and we'll definitely map out whatever it is, trainings, assessments based on your needs. You could email me at laventurecsllc@gmail.com. Visit me on Instagram, which is also laventurecsllc. And you can also give me a phone call. My phone number is 516-690-7334.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate this. Very enlightening conversation for sure. Dr. Laventure's, reminds us that there is importance in advocating for your children. So make sure that you contact her, reach out to her for more information. Conversations with Verdel Jones is about inspiring action. It's about empowering and sharing information. So remember, in the words of Maya Angelou, when you learn, teach, and when you get, give. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you will never miss an episode. I'm your host, Verdel Jones, and we'll see you next time.